All right. I think we hit our official start time. So thanks everybody for joining here this afternoon. My name is Steve Karam. I am the Senior Director of Sales here at Pacejet. You'll also see we have Mike Mahannah, our Director of Partnerships and Alliances, on with us as well. He's going to be monitoring the chat as we go, but appreciate everybody joining here, our presentation on shipping in a constrained world. We'll probably take about 20 minutes or so worth of presentation time. 20, 25 minutes or so, depending on how long I go. But we'll make sure to save some time at the end here for questions. But if anybody does have questions as we are going through the presentation, feel free to pop them in the chat. Like I said, Mike's going to be monitoring things, so he'll be able to keep an eye out, answer any questions in the interim, and then we'll go ahead and answer any Q&A or direct questions at the end if you want to chat or hop in and speak. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and get started here in just a minute. So you should all be seeing my screen. So like I mentioned, our presentation today is on shipping in a constrained world. I know that sounds a little bit negative, but we don't want to have this be a negative connotation. Really what we're talking about today is really the strategies for shippers to be able to get around some of the maybe limitations or some of the challenges that exist in 2022. For those of you that were on this presentation last year, you might notice it's a little bit of a similar topic, largely because some of the issues that existed last year also exist today. But a lot of things have changed. There are a number of different updates, some good, some bad, but there's a lot of moving and shaking. Change is the only constant. So it's important to be abreast of what kind of changes there are and find out what strategies are going to be helpful to be able to combat and get around some of the hurdles that businesses face here from a shipping perspective here this year. So we're going to start off by talking about some of the constraints that we see different shippers face here in 2022, how to navigate those constraints. That's where we'll spend most of our time talking through different strategies, different avenues that businesses can take to get around some of the different shipping bottlenecks that exist today. And then we'll talk at the end a little bit about Pacejet and acuCONNECT. We want to talk a bit about our solution, our integration, how our customers using acuCONNECT are able to get around some of those constraints and the different options that we can make available to users to be able to work as efficiently as possible here. So we'll start off by talking about those shipper constraints that really exist today. And like I mentioned, if you were on this presentation last year, you're probably noticing a little bit of similarities. I think last year the word was challenges. This year the word is constraints. Right now we have carrier constraints in 2022. When we talk about carrier constraints, we're talking about fluctuating capacity, higher costs, and what I call a moving goalpost. Last year at this time, there were carrier capacity issues left and right. Not enough trucks, not enough drivers. On the freight side, that trend has eased a bit. So we are looking at more availability on the LTL freight side. If you're shipping pallets, there are more carriers, there are more choices. Things have eased up quite a bit. On the parcel side, it's a little bit different. Carriers have become a bit more, I'll say, choosy or picky as far as what lanes they're accepting, what contracts they're accepting, what customers they want to support. Often charging a little bit of higher rates to smaller shippers or to folks who don't quite have the volume to be able to operate at a surplus. In addition to those higher costs, there are additional services fees, there's processing fees, dimensional weight adjustments. Carriers are getting very good at dinging shippers that maybe have one slip up or a missed data point or an incorrect weight as a part of a shipment. So that's one area where costs have increased quite a bit, in addition to tightening capacity. And then last but not least, I would say moving goalposts really just means general market conditions. There are all sorts of different changes happening with USPS removing their reseller agreement earlier this year, which removed some of the options to be able to connect to them. There's been talks of potential strikes across some of the major carriers, both nationally and internationally. So labor issues, there's all sorts of different pieces that are causing different delays, service level issues, the ability for customers and carriers to be able to respond and service different contracts or different pricing that's been negotiated. So it's just a constantly moving market. There's a number of different issues out there that folks need to be able to compete with and be prepared for. In addition to the carrier constraints, there's also a number of different customer or partner constraints. Managing expectations. We've had the Amazon effect around, really since the mid-teens. Everybody wants everything immediately, no matter what it is. We could be talking about, a box of tissues getting shipped to your house, or we could be talking about 2 pallets worth of stuff you're going to put in your garage. Doesn't matter. Customers all want it to come immediately, next day, same day, wherever possible. Get that to you as soon as possible. So that's one big piece, is just managing the general expectations that come along with customers. But then also people are demanding more visibility. They're demanding a clearer expectation up front of what they're going to get. People are disappointed when those expectations are not met. There's also regulatory requirements with specific customers, different geographies that you're taking on. There's, going from NAFTA to USMCA has completely changed some of the different regulatory paperwork that's needed as a part of a shipment that might be going to, let's say, Canada or Mexico. And then on top of the different regulatory requirements, maybe where a customer is, also the types of customers that you're working with are going to demand a different level of data or a different level of support. So think for larger customers, people who ship to Walmart or Tractor Supply, whatever the case may be, if certain data points aren't met, if the right data isn't being fed to those customers and you're shipping to, let's say, a Walmart distribution center, they're going to charge fees left and right. If you don't manage the right paperwork, if you don't get the right data to them to tell them what shipments are coming, what's going to be going into their door. In addition to the customer partner constraints, I also just have some general market and economy constraints. General uncertainty, like I mentioned, change is the only constant here. So things are always moving. Capacity issues, while for the LTL side right now, maybe not the worst, things have eased up quite a bit. That's certainly not going to stay the way that it is today. There's always going to be some sort of driver shortage. Things ebb and flow all the time. So just making sure that your business is prepared for the eventual turn when things might get a little bit more difficult is important. And then also just right now, labor shortage, I think everybody's feeling it. The issue of finding, keeping, and retaining good talent is huge. Every company's having issues with retention. Companies are having issues that are caused by retention when you have to bring on new employees. That's longer onboarding times. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the strategies to be able to, one, onboard employees quickly, but then also hopefully keep employees or empower employees to be able to do their job as efficiently as possible. So we talked about some of the overall constraints. Now I just want to go through the 3 main strategy or 3 main areas to combat those constraints. So we have increased carrier choice, so more carriers, integration and data integrity, and then eliminating manual operations. So those are the 3 kind of buckets that we're going to be talking about from a shipping perspective here today. So first is increasing carrier choice. Right at the top, you see more options equals more coverage. I mentioned that capacity constraints on the LTL freight side of things, not the worst this year. We're doing pretty well. People have generally available trucks to be able to move certain loads. There aren't quite the delays that we saw last year. However, that is always, it's always possible that could change. Having the ability to have a diverse network of carriers, adding 3PLs to be able to cast a wider net to different providers can offer shippers, one, a number of different options to be able to cover a given load, but then to the next bullet point as well, give you more options to be able to rate shop and determine what's going to be the lowest cost to move a specific shipment. Also with UPS and FedEx, there's talks of potential strikes or slowdowns with their labor shortages. Having not just a larger national or international carrier, but then taking advantage of, for small parcel shipments or single box shipments, maybe a regional carrier who can provide a little bit more customized service and take care of some of those areas where your larger carriers might be lagging behind, just gives you more opportunity to support your customers, to be able to get your product out to your end customer, just give you a wider net to cast. And that also helps from a disaster proofing perspective. If one carrier can't manage a lane, if they change your contracts, if they change your tariffs midway through an annual agreement with that provider, that lets you sort of disaster proof and have a backup plan for should any changes take place quickly, which seems to be happening all the time. better to be prepared for it, better to always have a backup plan, and have someone who can get your products out of your warehouse into your end customer. We also have data integrity and integration. So really what we're talking about here is kind of that managing customer expectations or the customer and partner constraints that I had mentioned earlier. So having solid data in your ERP and then having strong, flexible integrations allows you to better meet and set accurate expectations for your customers. We talk about the Amazon effect. Customers want everything immediately. Or having a solid integration and having different steps at which to estimate maybe shipping costs, estimate transit times ahead of an order being placed allows your teams or allows our customers to be able to tell their customers exactly when they should expect product given a certain ship date, give the most accurate expectation with live real-time API rates so that they can say, all right, here is reasonably what you should expect. There's obviously going to be some variance if maybe an order is placed and then a week, a month, 2 months later, it's ultimately shipped out. But if you have the right integration set up, if you have the right connection to the different carriers that you might be using, that lets shippers be able to leverage the carrier connections that they have, accurately estimate what costs and potential transit time is going to be ahead of the order being placed, so that when it ships out, they can remain consistent. And also after the order ships, if you have the connections to the carriers, if you have the tie-ins to acuMatica to be able to get tracking information and all of the different shipment detail as a part of each individual shipment that goes out, you're able to better track what was in each box, what are the individual tracking numbers tied to those packages. And then if a customer calls in and says, hey, I got box 1, I didn't get box 2, you're able to figure out exactly what was in that box that may not have arrived. And then if you have the right tools in place, be able to track it down, get an update from the carrier and find out how to resolve the issue. In addition to kind of the integration and managing customer expectation side of things, from a business perspective, if you find that you're rolling out new products or if you're going to be taking on maybe new geographies or businesses or to find new business, it's important to have the right automation steps and the right data points to be able to keep up with compliance. We talked a bit about USMCA versus NAFTA and some of the changes from an export perspective there. But if you go, let's say, outside of the United States and you're not used to exporting shipments, it's a completely different set of data that one needs to be passed out to the carrier that you're going to be working with. But then our customers generally have a completely different set of paperwork that they'll need to generate. So being able to automate that, having the right data feed in to eliminate some of those manual steps, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, really helps to be able to, one, ensure that you're not having to take completely different processes or completely different steps in order to manage business to customers in different geographies, but also not get hit with fees from a carrier perspective or have something get held up at the border just because the wrong class code was applied to an item on an international shipment. And then last but not least, kind of talking about the fees aspect of it is trading partner compliance. We have customers that ship B2C entirely to, let's say, just a customer's doorstep. And we have a lot of customers, though, that manage larger, what we call trading partner orders. These are shipments that might be drop shipped on behalf of Target or Walmart going straight out to a customer, or they might be shipping to a Wayfair distribution center or a Walmart distribution center, where Walmart then takes, let's say, a pallet of goods and is going to ship that out from their stores. It is incredibly important if we have, in that case, we call our customers kind of omni-channel shippers. If we have an omni-channel shipper who wants to ship to a Walmart distribution center, it's incredibly important to have the right processes and the right data passing back and forth from acuMatica to the other business systems that you may be using to get the right information back to Walmart when a shipment sends, get the right paperwork printed. That eliminates some pretty hefty fees. We're talking about $50 per package if the wrong items are shipped out or if the wrong labels and paperwork are printed out at the time of shipping. Really helps to, one, save time from a processing perspective, but then helps to save some pain on the back end by eliminating those fees and getting the right data out to your trading partners. So you can maintain that line of business and they're not going to cut you off from listing on their website. Last but not least, some of the things we've already talked about have tied in here, but eliminating manual operations. And again, this one's really tied to just some of the general economy uncertainty and labor shortage and retention issues. But having the right set of products tied into acumatica is going to allow you to eliminate manual steps, eliminate manual processes, set the warehouse up for success by kind of removing some of the complex decisions that may need to be made at the time of shipping. But also when you think about labor shortage and retention, when you get an employee, one, you want to keep them. You want to make their job as simple as possible, help them, empower them to do their job quickly and efficiently. But also, in the case of a lot of shippers out there, you hit busy season, which is coming up. It's already kind of ramping up now. But as you hit busy season and you take on, let's say, temp employees or folks that are only going to be working for a couple of months, you want to be able to ramp those employees up as quickly as possible. So have some good automated processes in place so that within a matter of hours, not days, you can have a new employee from a shipping perspective in the warehouse, processing orders, attaching labels to boxes without having to worry about maybe messing something up, miskeying, miscopying information into a different system. It is really important to be able to make sure that you've got those processes in place, but then it might be a mix of processes that you put into place depending on order channels or depending on where something might be going. It's good to have strong integrations, flexible integrations that can flex as you need them to, but really just allow the folks when you're shipping, if it's from an order perspective, get that accurate information out to the customer. But it's from a shipping perspective, if you've got temp employees, if you've got new employees, make it hours, not days, ramp up time so that they can hop right in, start doing their job efficiently. And that way, by the time November, December comes and we're in peak busy season for anybody in the retail space, that they're able to really crank out shipments. You're not having shipping or the warehouse end of things be a bottleneck. So those are kind of the three main areas where you can look to combat some of the constraints that shippers may see today. Again, all of it's really tied to having the connectivity, having the different integrations, and having accurate data come in and out of acumatica and get to your customers. Really helps to improve the ability for shippers to be able to adapt to different market conditions, but that's set themselves up for success. If things do change, if there's a major shift or you lose a carrier or a vendor, you're able to have a backup plan to be able to take on either a new line of business, take on a new carrier quickly, efficiently, without having to scramble and kind of wonder what you're going to do. So the last portion of this presentation is centered around kind of where Pacejet fits in this whole environment. So I know a lot of you are probably already familiar with Pacejet. We've been around the acumatica ecosystem for a while, but for those of you who are not familiar, Pacejet, we are a cloud-based multi-carrier shipping software. We are a strong acumatica partner, have been around the ecosystem since 2017. Our integration's built and fulfilled by acumatica. So the acumatica team actually maintains, certifies that integration. And really, we like to think of ourselves as a true extension of the ERP. We can leverage internal features within acumatica. We also have a separate interface if customers wish to use it. But when our customers have implemented acumatica and implemented Pacejet alongside acumatica, across the board on average, we see generally 99% order accuracy. So those items that are being ordered are getting to their customers accurately. The right items are going in the right boxes. The right items are going out with the right shipments. On average, our customers can see up to a 30% shipping cost reduction. That's through a variety of different features, whether we're talking about real-time rate shopping, leveraging the visibility of data available either within Pacejet or within acumatica to be able to negotiate rates with carriers. We have over 70 different carrier connections. That is a live real-time carrier network. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But then also our customers, when they implement Pacejet and acumatica, can see sometimes up to a reduction in labor of up to 80% and 75% faster fulfillment. They do that through a lot of the automation steps that can be implemented as a part of our integration. So automating certain processes, leveraging things like our auto pack functions or predictive packing tools, as well as creating a much easier process flow for some of the more complex orders. So larger pallet shipments or boxes that are going to be going on pallets, kind of those trading partner shipments out to Walmart that I was talking about. Those are definitely some areas where we can help put in some automation steps and make sure that the right paperwork is generated at the time of shipping, so our customers don't have to sift through a massive stack of labels and match them up to each box that they might be going on to. I did mention our carrier network. Right now we're sitting at over 70 different carriers out there. We have direct API connections to all of the providers in the Pacejet carrier network. So that includes small parcel carriers, that includes LTL carriers. We work with the top 25 LTL providers in the United States, as well as a number of different 3PLs or brokers. So if our customers want to work with LTL providers, but maybe don't have a ton of freight shipping capacity or a ton of volume to be able to negotiate with, they can very easily go to one of the 3PLs in our network, negotiate some rates, and give themselves a wider net to be able to have more rate options available for a given shipment. But that certainly includes, for all of our carriers, US-based carriers. We do have a number of Canadian carriers as well. So our customers within the US and Canada have a number of different options to be able to manage shipments of different types going to all sorts of different locations, whether they're shipping within the US, within Canada, to Canada, Mexico, or anywhere in the world. We can manage domestic or international export shipments. And then I had mentioned this, we really consider ourselves an extension of the ERP with the different process flows that are available and our ability to either embed ourselves entirely within acuMatica or have that separate interface. We really give some flexible workflows to our customers, different options to be able to manage different order types. We are part of the Always Current program, so our integration is automatically certified whenever those new releases come out. But from a functionality perspective, acuMatica is going to manage the order management, accounting, picking process, WMS process. Pacejet really takes everything from the packing, shipping execution, shipment tracking, as well as shipment order cost estimating, whether that be domestic, whether that be international shipments, small parcel, one box going to a customer, LTL freight, multiple pallets going out to a trading partner warehouse. We have options for our customers to be able to manage shipments of all types through a variety of different workflows in different automated fashion to help our customers save as much time as possible when it comes time to get things out the door. So with that in mind, oops, jumped a little too far there. I'm going to open up the floor to any questions from the group here. If anybody wants to share their audio, feel free. If you want to type anything in the chat, by all means, go ahead. We've got about 7 minutes left, so if there are any questions, fire away. Happy to answer them. Mike or myself can hop in and answer. But appreciate everybody taking the time to listen today. All right, so far we have an easy group. No questions. No curveballs. Nobody wants to throw a fastball at us. All right, we'll give everybody another minute, and then we can we'll go ahead and hop off here.
Steve, do you have that contact information slide again? Just in case
yeah, that might help, wouldn't it? Hang on, let me pull that up. There we go. So there's my information. If anybody does want to reach out, if anybody wants to take a look at a demo, I can get you set up with somebody on my team to walk through things, but more than happy to set up a call, even if it's just to answer a couple of questions, talk a little bit about some of those strategies that we reviewed today. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody here, or if there's anyone else that wants to actually take a look at a demo or a discovery call, more than happy to set that up as well. So feel free to give me a call on my cell phone listed there, shoot me a note, whatever's easiest for everybody. All right. Doesn't look like we have any questions here. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and close things out. So I appreciate everybody taking the time to walk through things with us here. Thanks for listening in. Again, if any questions pop up, my information's listed right there as well. Or you can go to our booth and pop any questions in the chat there. We've got some folks monitoring that as well. So thanks again for your time, everybody. Hopefully this was a helpful look, and looking forward to seeing everybody here at the happy hour here in just a little bit.